Okay, so in today's lesson, we are going to be thinking a bit more about place value and some strategies that we can use to answer questions about where there is a bit of place value involved. So the first question, and indeed the main question that we're going to focus on today, is this question about the value of 9 in 12,097. So the number is 12,097. So you'll see down here that I have already drawn a grid, a place value grid, which you might recognize from where you've looked at place value before now. And this will help us to answer the question because we'll be able to put each of the digits from the number 12,097 into this grid in order to determine exactly what the value of the 9 in the number is. And then from there, we will look at the different possibilities that we've been given as to the value of 9 and think about which one is correct. Okay, so first of all, taking this number 12,097 and putting it into the grid. Well, we'll start with the ones. So in this number, the number 7 is representative of 7 ones. It means what it says. It means there are 7 ones in the number 12,097. Okay, so now let's talk about this 9, that 9 that is actually the 9 we're being asked to think about in the question. What does it represent? Well, we know that because it's next to the 7 that it's going to have a different value, in that it's not just going to mean 9 ones, it's actually going to mean 9 tens. In other words, that 9 represents 90. And we're pretty much there. We don't really need to look, in terms of answering the question, but we don't really need to look at the other numbers or the other digits, rather, in this number 12,097. But as we're revising place value, I think it might actually be quite helpful. So let's look at the 0, which it doesn't really matter where you put 0 in a place value grid. It will always be the same. It means 0, that there are no hundreds in the number 12,097. Okay, and then what about this 2? Well, again, it doesn't just mean 2. It means, in fact, that there are 2 thousands in the number, and that therefore, if we were going to simply write what this 2 represents on its own, we would actually write just the number 2, or not just, it's actually quite a big number, 2,000. Okay, and then finally, just for completeness, we'll look at this 1 here, and that 1 we would put into our column 10,000s, and therefore, if we were to write that out in full, it would look like this, with 4 zeros afterwards. But as I said, the question that we're being asked to think about now is actually the 9, and we've done all the donkey work that we need to do to be able to answer this question, because we know from using our place value grid that that 9 represents 90, and we can see that of all the possible answers, E would be the correct one, because there it is, the number 90. It's not 9,000 because it's not in the 9 isn't in the thousands column. It's not 9 because 9 isn't in the ones column. It's not 900 because 9 isn't in the hundreds column. And it's not 90,000 because 9 is not in the 10,000s column. So that was fairly straightforward. And I want now, just in the last few minutes of this lesson, to have a look at this graph here. So moving on from place value and thinking about graphs, which fortuitously, as it has just been the season of Christmas, is showing the number of Christmas trees sold on 5 days at a farm. And we're being asked to think about how many more trees were sold on Thursday than on Friday. Than on Tuesday. I'm getting a bit carried away. So what we're going to have to do in our next lesson, because we're running out of time now, is look more closely at that bar graph. It is a bar graph and not a line graph, and think carefully about what each of the columns in that bar graph represents. And we will have to use some subtraction in that, but we'll leave that for now because we focused today on place value, and done a fantastic job, so well done. Okay, and I will see you for our next lesson next week.